They go to the. No, they're gonna hold the card up. You have to hold the card up. Yeah. Unless there's an amendment, I don't think we'll need them. No. We're going to start in just a few minutes. I'd just like to give everyone a 3-minute warning that if you haven't checked in with your supervisor of the checklist for your respective communities to get your necessary cards and voter card, please do so now. Thank you. Oh dear. Quite a crowd, huh? How many from Hancock? How many from Hancock? You act like I'm gonna pick people out of a crowd. I'm the only one I saw go to that table, so how's that? Google agrees.
These should be piped through,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, thank you. You guys are good at this. Thanks. You ready to go? Oh, they're still coming in, huh? Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Kentucky Valley School District deliberative session. Call the meeting to order. I'd like to ask you and invite you to stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Dick Dunning, our school board member. Flag is to my left.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I want to start this evening, if I may. I'd like to remind everybody that we have fire exits here, to your left as you go out, and to your right as you go out. Most of you are probably familiar with them. The bathrooms are over here to your left by the elevator. So I just want you to be aware of that. So for the safety of everyone, I am requiring masks be worn in this assembly here. However, we are providing a room out here that will be monitored, so we can be available to hear your questions or comments. But in here, we ask that you wear a mask, and I will enforce that for the evening, and I really express my appreciation for your cooperation. Thank you. I want to introduce my assistant moderator this evening, John Cronin, sitting down front, waving his hand from the town of Bennington. I appreciate him being here. And we have Abby Tucker from the firm of Wadley, Starr and Peters in Manchester, and she's serving as our district legal counsel. And Abby is waving at this point. So the purpose of our deliberative session is for all of you. You're the legislative body, and you have the opportunity tonight to better understand the budget and the warrant articles to be discussed, and to determine the final form in which the warrant articles will be voted on March 8th in your respective community locations. I have a few rules, and I apologize for this, but I have to go through them. Each article that we address tonight will be read by myself, and I'm Bob Edwards. I don't think I said that, but I apologize from Antrim, but I'm your moderator for the evening. And I will then, after I read it, I will recognize a school board member or a school official to speak to the article. The only exception this evening will be when we arrive at article number 12, which is a petition warrant article. And I will ask that if there is a petitioner in the room that signed that petition, if they would like to come forward and speak to the article. So after that occurs, I will open the article to the assembly this evening for questions, comments, and amendments. What we've had happen in the past is that we have school board members or we have members of the assembly that are anxious to make a motion to accept these articles as we go through them. And I just want to remind everyone that this is a deliberative session this evening, and we are not voting on anything here. You will vote at your respective towns on town meeting day, voting day in your own town. The exception to that would be an amendment, if there is one tonight, and you all have your voter cards. I assume everyone has picked them up, so we will take the count by voter card. But I just wanted to forewarn you, you don't need to second and make motions on the articles. If you wish to make an amendment tonight, I would ask that you do so in writing and present it to me as the moderator. When there are no other motions on the floors, questions, or discussions on any specific article, I will declare the article closed to further debate and move on to the next article. Once the article is closed to further debate, it will require a motion, a second, and a majority vote to bring the article back for further discussion. Under RSA 40:10, the legislative body may move to restrict reconsideration of an article. If voted in the affirmative, the article may not be brought up again in this deliberative session. Only voters from the 9 Conval District towns may speak and vote at this session. Registered voters must have a voter card, which was provided to you when you checked in with your supervisors of the checklist. In terms of speaking at the meeting this evening, I have exempted staff and administrative members, school, legal counsel, assistant moderator, that can address questions or provide information on matters that are relevant to matters coming before the meeting tonight. Also know that a voter may request that a non-voter may be allowed to address the meeting if there are no objections. If there is an objection, the decision will be put to a vote of the meeting. The moderator must first recognize anyone wishing to address the meeting for any purpose. Please do not just speak out. Raise your hand, come to the microphone. A speaker must first state his or her name and town of record, and also announce the purpose for which he or she wishes to address the meeting. And an example would be, I'd like to ask a question, introduce an amendment or a motion. I'd also ask that when you speak to the article, be respectful of the 3-minute speaking time limitation and be able to express your thoughts, which we all want to hear, within the 3-minute time period. A speaker may not speak to an article and make a motion at the same trip to the microphone. If you want to make a motion, you must do so separately and get behind those that are behind you to speak. I will recognize speakers in the order at the microphone. The only exception, anyone raising a point of order, which we've heard in the past, may interrupt the speaker, and I will recognize them only for the point of order. And I want to be clear that a point of order typically is made to call the moderator's attention to some matter that's interfering with the conduct of this meeting. Each voter this evening has received one voter card, and you'll only get one. And I will ask you to show your card when recognizing you to speak this evening or for voting purposes. Please do not lose it. If you need to leave the meeting temporarily, please take your card with you. If there is a motion offered this evening, I will ask those voting to raise the voter cards in favor and secondly as opposed. The outcome of the vote will be declared based on my visual assessment of the count. If there is a question as to the majority vote outcome, I will ask for an actual count of the voter cards in favor and opposed. The only vote exclusively taken this evening will be a motion to adjourn. A secret ballot vote may be requested in writing by 5 voters before a vote is taken on any motion. I will provide a signature form for requesting a secret ballot, and the names must be confirmed by the supervisor of the checklist in their respective town. A secret ballot may also be requested after the moderator has declared results of a vote taken on a voter card basis. A request must be made in writing immediately after the moderator has declared the result of the vote taken and before any other business has begun. A request must be in writing and requires 7 signatures to be confirmed by the supervisor of the checklist. After we adjourn this evening, please drop your voter cards in the boxes. There's one at each exit on your way out so we can dispose of them properly. Meeting decorum, quickly here. Please silence or place your cell phones in the vibrating mode. If you must answer it, please exit quietly to the hallway so as not to interrupt the session. The exception, of course, of first responders. If a voter honestly believes that sufficient debate has occurred on a warrant article, you may move the question. However, I reserve the sole authority to accept or deny the motion if there hasn't been any discussion or if only one side of the question has been allowed to be presented. Anyone wishing to move the question must take their place in line at the microphone in respect for those already in line to speak. Any speaker behind the person calling the question, if voted in the affirmative, shall not be allowed to speak. There is no discussion on a motion to call the question. Lastly, I respectfully request that all of us assembled here this evening devote our full attention to the subject matter being discussed and to please refrain from conducting secondary conversations with your neighbor, applauding, cheering, whistling, and the like. We are conducting important school district business, and we encourage you to respectfully express your opinion, and we do want to hear your opinion, and to be respectful of your neighbor, as every issue is important, and each speaker's opinion deserves respect and consideration. I will now turn our attention to the evening's warrant. The warrant, State of New Hampshire. To the inhabitants of the Kentucky Valley School District, consisting of the towns of Antrim, Bennington, Dublin, Francistown, Greenfield, Hancock, Peterborough, Sharon, and Temple, qualified to vote in district affairs. You are hereby notified to meet at Conval High School at 184 Hancock Road, Route 202 North, in Peterborough on the 8th day of February 2022, next at 6 o'clock in the evening for the first session of the annual school district meeting. Snow date would have been the 10th of February. To deliberate upon the warrant articles listed below. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. A, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for the final vote on the main motion as amended. And C, no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. An amendment that changes the dollar amount of an appropriation in a warrant article shall not be deemed to violate this provision. You are hereby further notified to meet at the following places in your town of your residence. And last year, I just asked the question, does everyone understand where they are going to vote and what the times are in their own towns? You have the supervisor's checklist here. I'd be happy to go through all 9 towns, but I think probably everyone knows. Is there anyone that doesn't know where they're meeting or the time in which they're going to meet? Thank you. That'll be on the 8th day of March, next for the second session of the meeting. Polls will be open for voting by official ballot at the second session. At this point, before we start on the warrant articles, I would like to turn the meeting over to our school board chairman, Tim Theberge, for opening remarks.
Good evening, and thank you, Bob. Thank you to the members of the board and the administration for your hard work in preparing and presenting a responsible and reasonable budget for the next school year. I have been honored to serve as the chair of the Conval School Board. My family and I moved to the district nearly 6 years ago. We chose this area in large part because of Conval. I would like to thank all of the community members that have come out tonight, and would like to thank all the supervisors of the checklist for being here tonight as well. I would also like to thank those of you for taking the time to watch us from home. I would also like to wish our high school boys basketball team good luck tonight as they begin their quest for the state championship. Go Cougars. If you have questions about the warrant articles, please ask them. We are more than willing to answer your questions as best we can. I would like to point out that the board has unanimously endorsed Articles 1 through 11 on your warrant. Conval has been around since 1968. We've weathered generations of inadequate state aid, multiple economic recessions, an epic ice storm, and now a global pandemic. Over these 50-plus years, Conval has served the member towns well and will, despite efforts of the state legislature to prevent us from doing so, continue to serve our communities for the next 50 years to come. Thank you.
Are you ready for the articles? Article number 1, Budget School District SB2. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with a warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $53,766,080. I'm going to read that again. $53,766,080. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $52,842,414, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Kentucky Valley School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. The Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. The moderator will recognize Mr. Frederickson, school board member from Sharon, to speak to this article.
Good evening. I'm going to speak for just a few minutes on the warrant Article 1, which has to do with the operating budget. I'm Jim Frederickson from Sharon. I'm also the chairman of the Budget and Property Committee. The thing to recognize about the $53.76 million gross budget is that it includes about $2 million of federal program costs. So if you subtract those out, what you're really voting on tonight is an operating budget of $51.4548 million, okay? And the reason that's important is that's what really impacts what we do in the school. The teachers we hire, the staff we hire, the curriculum, the facilities, everything we do is associated with the operating budget. The proposed operating budget this year is $333,000 higher than the budget you approved last year. That's not a whole lot in this inflationary environment. If you look at a percent increase, it's 0.65% increase. It's a very, very well thought out, very responsible budget, I guess is a good word to use. So what that number does not include, it does not include any operating costs associated with the proposed 3-year collective bargaining agreement, which Kevin will be talking about in a minute. So you need to keep that straight. If the budget is not passed, then we have to go, as the warrant article says, to the default budget. The default budget would require cuts of about $588,000. So we're going to have to, if the budget is not passed, the board is going to have to get together with the superintendent and the staff and determine what programs we cut from this year. That's $600,000 we'd have to cut from this year. So we all highly recommend you vote for this budget.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on Article 1? Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will now close Article 1 to further debate and move to Article 2. Article 2, accept the collective bargaining agreement. To see if the Kentucky Valley Regional School District will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Conval School Board and the Conval Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level. Fiscal year 2022 through 2023, estimated increase $877,844. Fiscal year 2023 through 2024, estimated increase $737,576. Fiscal year 2024 through 2025, $714,868. and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $877,844 for the 2022 through 2023 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. Moderator recognizes Mr. Popes from Francistown.
Good evening. I just want to make a few detailed comments. The school board bargains with the Conval Education Association on behalf of 3 groups of employees: the teachers, the paraprofessionals, and the specialized service providers. This last group is professional employees who serve students, but not as classroom teachers. They have specialized certification and licensing. Examples would be social workers, counselors, and nurses. This is a 3-year contract. The advantage of that is it provides stability for building budgets in the next 2 years. The total price tag for the next year is $878,000, as Bob said. That is in line with contracts between the board and the union over the last several years. For example, last year's contract provided an increase of $845,000. The increases for the following 2 years are substantially lower. There is a salary schedule that compensates employees based on the years of experience and the level of advanced education that they have. For the next year, salary increases will vary between 2.5% and 3.7%, depending on where an employee falls on that salary schedule. Beyond salary increases, the contract provides for an additional workday for professional staff. Their days of service each year will increase from 187 to 188. The contract also increases the contribution that employees will make for their health insurance benefit. This is a good contract, especially in this economy.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I will close Article 2 to further debate. Article number 3, special meeting for defeated amended collective bargaining agreement. Shall the district, if Article 2 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 2 cost items only? Majority vote required. Again, Mr. Popes from Francistown.
If the voters do not approve the collective bargaining agreement, Article 3 would enable negotiators for the school board and the CVEA to meet, continue bargaining, and bring another contract proposal to voters. If a new collective bargaining agreement is not approved by voters, the teachers, parapros, and specialized professionals will not receive any increase to their salaries for the coming year.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I hereby close Article number 3 to further debate. Article number 4, expansion of current preschool program. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $744,112 for the 2022 through 2023 fiscal year for the purpose of expanding the existing preschool program. The Conval School Board designates this article as a special warrant article. The Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. Moderator recognizes Mr. Cahoon from Antrim.
Thank you. This proposal arises from a 2016 report from the administration to the school board raising the serious concern that our kindergarten teachers were seeing more and more kids entering kindergarten who were not prepared to succeed. We had an increasing number of students showing up at kindergarten not recognizing any letters, not being able to relate sounds to letters, and not being able to count. This trend has continued. By our current measures, not more than 40% of incoming Conval kindergarten students are prepared to succeed in school without significant interventions and supports. In order to begin to address this issue, the district has worked over the past several years to gradually expand our preschool offerings. We are seeking to expand our current 5 classrooms to 8, allowing us to offer nearly universal access to preschool in our district and serve 120 students a year. The board and the administration recognize that we are asking the voters to make a significant investment in expanded preschool. And if this expansion is approved, we will commit to the voters that at least 70% of incoming students will be kindergarten ready. The school board voted unanimously to recommend the adoption of Article 4, and we ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on Article 4? Mr. DeWitt, you want to come to the microphone? Bring your voter card. Tell us who you are and where you live. I don't mean to be that blunt about it. David, right over here.
So I just have a clarification question, actually. If the federal government decides to provide funds for preschool, what would happen to this money?
So I'm just going to repeat the question, Dave, so I can be sure that I understood it. Your question is, if the federal government passes legislation that would provide dollars for universal preschool, what would happen to the $744,000? Yes, so that would go into our unreserved fund balance. It would either be used to fund the trusts, which we're going to go through like we do every year, or it would go back to the taxpayers as part of the unreserved fund balance, or it would be part of the 2.5% that can be held for emergencies, which was passed last year by the legislative body.
Any other discussion?
Tricia Sanger, Temple. I was just wondering where the classrooms will be located.
Final decisions regarding classroom locations haven't been made, but as of right now, the classrooms would be centrally located in Peterborough, Antrim, Hancock, and Greenfield.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will close. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss someone? I apologize. Just yell at me.
Sorry. Yeah, so then how does that work with busing? Or are parents just responsible for that?
So parents would be responsible for transportation at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 4? If not, I hereby close Article 4 to further debate. Article number 5, establish and appropriate to Technology Trust Fund. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District vote to establish an expendable trust fund under the provisions of RSA 198:20-C to be known as the Technology Trust Fund for the purpose of acquiring and maintaining hardware, software, and services necessary to support the use of digital equipment and technology throughout the district, and shall it raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed in the fund, and further to name the school board as agents to expend from this fund. The Conval School Board designates this article as a special warrant article. Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. Moderator recognizes Catherine Heck from Greenfield.
Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight. My name is Catherine Heck. I represent Greenfield. We are respectfully requesting that the voters consider approving Article 5 in the amount of $100,000 to be raised through taxation for the purpose of the Technology Trust Fund. While we are hoping to move out of a pandemic and never have to go to remote school again, technology is not going away. So while we realize that this is an expense and we have fully budgeted for all our technology needs for the upcoming year, technology, we learned, is highly expensive, and our current trust funds do not allow us to buy software because they don't explicitly state that. So this technology fund would allow us, in the event of having to pivot or a cost that had to be incurred, we would be able to do so with no additional taxation and provide what we need to the students and the staff of the district. We encourage you to approve this article. Thank you.
Any further discussion of Article number 5? Sarah?
I'm Sarah Edwards from Antrim. I just have a question about the wording when it says in these articles, the Conval School Board designates this article as a special warrant article. What deems it special?
From my understanding, I have counsel here to correct me. Does a school board member want to comment on that? Or?
I think we would like Abby to explain that,
it's an
please.
appropriated amount, so would you like to speak to it, Counselor? This is Abby Tucker.
So it's my understanding that it is a special warrant because that money can only be appropriated for that use. So if someone were to come in here and want to amend the amount of money that the board is asking for, they could amend it to 0, they could increase it. They can't change the purpose of that. So where you have your operating budget, everything's line by line. If you were to vote no on the operating budget, the school board then has to go back and reallocate where they're going to put the money that they do have. Here, if you were to increase or decrease, the money is still going to go into that technology fund. So that makes it a special.
Thank you. Any further discussion of Article 5? Hearing none, I hereby close Article 5 to further debate. Article number 6, appropriate to the Energy Trust Fund from fund balance. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Kentucky Valley School District Energy Trust Fund previously established? This sum to come from the June 30, 2022 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2022, with no amount to be raised from taxation. The Conval School Board designates this article to be a special warrant article, and the Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. Moderator recognizes Catherine Heck again.
So in warrant article number 6, this has been on the ballot for several years now, and it is directly related to the solar project that the legislative body approved several years ago, which is now on our high school. We're very excited to report. What this would allow us to do is to do a buyout of that solar contract, which would maximize the dollars that we save by having solar energy on our roof. Currently, the agreement is we are saving money, but there are private investors, so it takes 6 years in order to have them fully realize their investment and to have, at that time, an option to buy it out. So while this requires no additional taxation, this article will only be funded in the event that there is leftover fund balance at the end of the year. It would also allow us to move forward with any other energy efficient project that would align with the district's goals. So we do recommend that you adopt this article. Thank you.
Any other discussion on Article 6? Hearing none, I hereby close Article 6 to further debate. Article 7, appropriate to the Building Capital Reserve Fund from fund balance. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500,000 to be added to the Building Capital Reserve Fund previously established? This sum to come from the June 30, 2022 fund balance available for transfer July 1st, 2022, with no amount to be raised from taxation. The Conval School Board designates this article as a special warrant article. The Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. Moderator recognizes Janine Lesser from Peterborough.
This warrant article asks the voters to approve the transfer of $500,000 from any unreserved fund balance at the end of this fiscal year 2022, standing the Building Capital Reserve to the Building Capital Reserve Trust Fund. These are not new funds raised from taxation. This trust fund allows the district to maintain its extensive number of buildings throughout the district and implement its capital improvement plan.
Any other discussion on Article 7? Please.
My first question is, we have several on the warrant articles talking about transferring unreserved fund balances into these trust funds. How do you decide if there isn't enough money to meet all these, what fund gets what?
Is this the what fund gets what question? It goes in order of as they were presented up to you on the ballot.
Okay.
So if you so at the end of the year, if we only had, let me do some quick math, right? So the first one's raise and appropriate, so that's different. So let's say we only had $500,000 left at the end of the year, right? It goes in the order of as the articles are presented, and then the others, even if you approve them, won't get money.
And the fund balances that are on this warrant article are all the fund balances that the district has right now?
No, there's one trust fund into it, at least one that I can think of, that we didn't ask to put money into this year, and that's the Special Ed Trust Fund. We have targets set for all of our trust funds for how much money we'd like to have in those trust funds based on what we think is going to come in from projections and what we think we're going to spend going out. And that particular one is in really good shape this year, so we didn't ask for additional dollars or unreserved fund balance for that particular one. I think that's Jim.
Okay.
If I could make a comment, we've put a lot of information regarding the budget on the board website under budget, and there's a best-selling article on this very special subject that we wrote. So if you want to look at it, you can pull it down for free.
Excellent. And the one last question was, will that also tell us then what balances are in there now? Like, where you're adding to it, right? Or are they unfunded on each year that money is used? So it's only in this money to be raised is all the money that would be available, or is it cumulative?
We keep track of what's in the fund at any given time. What the start of the year fund is, our projected expenditures, our projected income. So it's like keeping track of your budget at home. Mm-hmm. And we do have them available. We can read off the numbers tonight if you want, but they're also available on some of the minutes of the meetings. And if you're really interested, we can just contact one of us and we'll send you a copy of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on Article 7? Hearing none, I will hereby close Article 7 to further debate. Article number 8, appropriate to the Health Trust Fund from fund balance. Moderator recognizes Chairman Mr. Thaberge.
Thank you, Bob. So again, this is another one of the trust funds that we have. This one allows us to manage our health insurance, health coverage costs. So we're asking for a $50,000 from the unreserved fund to go into that. Again, this is to help lower the ups and downs related to those costs. And it's a small amount. Thank you.
This is a little bit like Jeopardy. You heard the answer before you heard the question, and that's my fault. But I'm going to read it. Article 8, I'm going to read it, and you've heard the answer, but just for the record, shall the Kentucky Valley School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the Health Trust Fund as previously established? This sum to come from the June 30, 2022 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2022, with no amount to be raised from taxation. The Conval School Board designates this article as a special warrant article. The Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. You've heard from Mr. Thaberge. Is there any other discussion on Article 8? Hearing none, I will now close Article 8 to further debate. Article number 9, appropriate to the Building Capital Reserve Fund from fund balance. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $250,000 to be added to the Building Capital Reserve Fund as previously established? This sum to come from the June 30, 2022 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2022, with no amount to be raised from taxation. In the event that Article 7 passes, this appropriation shall be in addition to any appropriation to the Building Capital Reserve pursuant to Article number 7. The Conval School Board designates this article as a special warrant article. The Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article, and the moderator recognizes Mr. Dunning from Peterborough.
As discussed earlier, as these trust funds are funded, it's a depleting amount of money, and if we get to this point and there are funds left, and there are $250,000 left, we would put them in this trust fund. What we're trying to do is build the assets to deal with the needs of capital improvements throughout our district, particularly when we look at most of our buildings are now well over 25 years old, and we're trying to get ahead of the curve to make sure we can minimize the impact on the taxpayers. So that's why you see this repeat here. Thank you.
Any other discussion on Article 9? Having heard none, I will declare that we close debate, any further debate on Article 9. Article 10. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District accept the reports of agents, auditors, committees, and officers chosen? Moderator recognizes Mr. Burgess from Peterborough.
Thank you. This is a article to approve the reports that are located in the annual report that you received tonight.
Any other discussion on Article 10? Having heard none, I hereby close Article 10 to further debate. Article 11, School Board Salaries. Shall the Kentucky Valley School District appoint the salaries of the school board and fix the annual compensation of any other officers or agents of the district as follows? School Board Chair, $1,500. Each member, $1,000. Treasurer, $2,500. Deputy Treasurer, $2,000. Moderator, $300. The Conval School Board recommends adoption of this article. Moderator recognizes Mr. Edelkind from Dublin.
Good evening. I'm Alan Edelkind, School Board Representative from Dublin. I want to take 1 second to thank our in-house and our live stream audience for attending this very important meeting. As you can see, the school board salaries are really stipends that don't really even cover our expenses. Well, if they're not covering our expenses and not salaries, then why do we do this job? It's very simple. We give our time, energy to provide to the community and students the best cost-effective education that is possible. So we recommend that this thing be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on Article 11? Hearing none, I hereby close Article 11 to further debate. Article number 12 is a petitioned warrant article. Shall the voters of the Conval Regional School District approve the following warrant article? Whereas an educated citizenry is necessary for the effective functioning and preservation of a representative democracy, and whereas full transparency in government is the bedrock principle for ensuring accountability in a democracy, and whereas the primary purpose of our schools is to provide a quality education that prepares students to become active and knowledgeable citizens and productive community members, and schools must provide the tools students need to acquire and develop analytical thinking skills that enable them to navigate the complexity of a modern economy. And whereas the primary responsibility for guiding the education of children and overseeing what is being taught in our schools and classrooms falls primarily to parents, grandparents, legal guardians, in conjunction with elected school boards and appointed administrators. And whereas taxpayers also have an absolute right to know how their educational dollars are being spent, then therefore, consistent with the above, this article shall require that the Conval Regional School District School Board of Education, SAU-1, shall make available by September 15th of each year, and as available throughout the school year, all instructional materials, including but not limited to textbooks, printed matter, and/or materials in electronic form used in classrooms, to the general public in libraries in each of the towns in the Conval School District: Peterborough, Dublin, Francistown, Greenfield, Hancock, Temple, Antrim, Sharon, and Bennington. In addition, copies of all professional training materials provided to teachers, administrators, and staff shall also be made available to the public. The school district is hereby instructed to spend $200 from existing budgeted funds to publicize the availability of these materials to the public. Majority vote required, submitted by petition. Is there a petitioner in the assembly tonight who wishes to speak to Article 12? Please come forward with your voter card, please.
Hi, I'm Rita Jedry Matson from Dublin. And this petition caught my attention because of all the things that have been going on in this whole country, not here in particular, but I can see the potential for there to be a problem with just things coming up. So as a grandmother of children that are 1 and 3, they're going to be coming to these schools, and I would like to be able to go to the library, look up what they're going to be taught, and not have to go to a teacher, go to the school board, go to the principal, go to whoever. Just do it on my own time when I want. And the best thing about it, I think, is that it will make the library a place where people can go to look all this stuff up and have accessibility when
they need to, like on weekends and stuff like that. I had a couple other points and I just can't think of it. But the thing is that for me as a grandma to be able to go and be proactive in my grandchildren's schooling, it's a very important part of my daughter was in school 40 years ago. We didn't need to see everything that was in the curriculum, but now things are so complex. I just think that we, as parents, grandparents, guardians, everything else, should be able to go to a library and find out what's on the curriculum. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call on our legal counsel in just a second, but does anyone in the school board have a comment? Okay. Abby, please.
I don't think I was very clear the last time, so I'm taking my mask off and I apologize. It's legal counsel's opinion that this warrant article is advisory in nature. It is unclear whether this legislative body, the Conval School Board, has the authority to impose a requirement on town libraries to purchase and maintain all of the materials referenced in this article. Additionally, as I understand it, there is a town in this district that does not have its own public library, but instead enjoys access to another town's library that is not part of this district. Therefore, there's no authority of this school board to mandate that this material gets into any of the public libraries. Furthermore, this article does not appropriate any funds and only requests the board to use $200 to publish notification that the material is available at those libraries. Therefore, you're asking the school board to take money out of your budget to pay for all of these materials in all of these classes. If the petitioners intend for these materials to be available at the school libraries, then there is an issue there as well, as the schools are not open to the public and they are only open during school hours.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Catherine?
I've decided to speak this evening as a taxpayer and a resident, not as a school board member. So I want to make that clear. This is not the opinion of the school board. It is my personal opinion, and I do believe in the right to petition. I think it's a very important right that our citizens have to bring matters to the attention of the governing body. However, I am compelled to share that there are already mechanisms in place for our parents and guardians, as well as the public, to review materials. In fact, we have school board policies, as well as New Hampshire state law and federal law that guarantee these rights. So for the members of the public here and the members of the public watching, I do want you to know that while you would have to make a request and come to the school to review these materials, as our legal counsel has shared, all these materials are in fact available to you. From our curriculum adoption, which is a public process done by the school board, required by law in policy IGD, legally referencing the administrative codes and rules of New Hampshire, Ed 302 and Ed 303, to parental objections to specific course materials, we have a policy on that as well at Conval, policy IGE. We have policies on library collection development, what's available to our children in the libraries. I reviewed these policies myself when my children were young and I was not a member of the school board. That is an extensive policy that anyone can review, and they're all on Conval's website. Additionally, we have to follow copyright policies, so any digital materials can't easily be made available because it could be a video perhaps, or some other electronic format. But again, you can make arrangements with the SAU or the building principal and review these materials. And we also have a required by law policy at Conval IJK, supplemental materials selection and adoption for things like movies and videos. So again, I appreciate a petition. I think it's very important in today's climate. This petition was it's approximately on a dozen ballots throughout the New Hampshire school districts, and nationally it's on hundreds of ballots. So while this appears to be a national issue, here at Conval, we are open, and I myself as a parent had taken advantage of using some of these policies in the past when I wanted to understand what was on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on Article 12?
Hi, Pierre Grollo, Town of Sharon. My question would be, if this was to really take place and the school board had to decide on allocating resources to fund this, hire people, everything else, is there a ballpark estimate what that would cost the district?
So I did one class, and it's back of the napkin.
Yep.
So we have a class called Music and Media,
Yep.
which if your kids haven't taken, you should sign up. It's a great course. And they go through soundtracks of TV shows and different movies and stuff like that, and discuss them and the rise and the fall of the music and setting up the scene. And all of the stuff that goes into how music portrays different feelings and all of that type of stuff. The cost for that class alone, simply to purchase 8 copies, because Sharon doesn't have a library, would be $500, and that only covers the costs of the DVDs that we would need to then provide to all of those, which I'm not sure if that then means we need to provide a DVD player for you to check out. That's one course. We offer hundreds of classes, and that's probably the cheapest course. If you look at band, if band would be a course, we would now need to purchase, I presume, sheet music for every instrument that we then teach, and have 9 copies, additional copies of all of that in all of those libraries as well. Again, we're still not into classes that have textbooks, which then, as you heard, also have copyright licenses and stuff like that. And that doesn't get into the staff time to actually then assemble that, to manage that. If there are updates, it's not a small number.
So based on that, I'm not sure how the rules work on a petition warrant article. I know that it can be amended. Can it be also withdrawn?
I know it can be amended, but
Can we ask the petitioner to withdraw it? Is that an option? So, okay, so I can't ask the petitioner to withdraw it as an amendment.
no.
26.
Yeah, I'd like to ask that. I'm not sure in what form I'm supposed to ask that question, but it just seems like this isn't something that's feasible for $200. You know.
The $200, the $200 is just to make the public aware of it.
Right.
It's the advertising.
But regardless, it's not feasible. It doesn't seem feasible. So to be clear. Yep. This is advisory in nature. Mm-hmm.
Even if it were to pass, legal counsel is informing the board that they are not mandated to do that.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and they don't have to do any of it because they don't have the authority.
Sure.
And really what that comes down to, they do not have the authority to make the library find all of the space for the entire school district material.
Yep.
You're not just talking a textbook for each class, you're talking about all of the other materials.
No, I agree.
Look at the science lab, you're now saying that any material that they use in the science lab will have to be accessible. So none of your town libraries are big enough to accommodate everything that this petition is requesting. So even if it were to
Yeah, so again, I just, the petitioner, if the petitioner is willing to withdraw it, I think that's the most sensible thing to do here, so.
Any other discussion? No. Just a second. Go ahead.
Hi there. My name is Timothy Iwanowitz from Peterborough. I thought I'd help out a little bit. I have an amendment. I have it in writing for you.
Okay.
Should I bring it to you?
Bring it forward, please. Just give it to us. If I understand this correctly, Article 12 is you're proposing the amendment would include everything that I just read in the base article, and you are adding the following provision as an amendment. The school district will raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of hiring staff to manage all of the collection, organization, and distribution necessary to manage the requirements of this warrant article. Submitted by Timothy
Iwanowitz.
Thank you so much, and from Peterborough. So you have an amendment on the floor, including the text of Article 12 that I read, in addition, what I just read as an added language. Does everyone understand this? And is there a second to the motion? Who seconded? Did you get that, Brenda? Would you speak up into the... Okay. Motion's been made and seconded for the amendment to Article number 12. Do you wish it to be read in its entirety again? Do you understand it? Okay. All those in favor of Article 12 as amended, please raise your voter cards. John, can you help me with a count? Maybe it won't be too difficult, but. I can't read your lips. All right, 8 in favor. All right, wait a minute, let's count them again then. Let's do it again because we have a discrepancy up here. Get them way up here, so wave them a little. Did you get her? Yeah, just a second, and I will. Catherine, do you want to?
I just want to clarify, and I suppose I can ask our legal counsel, if we amend the petition and add $200,000, well, $200,000 plus $200 to the petition, does that make it compulsory, or is it still advisory in nature?
Okay, so we have 22 counted in the affirmative. How many are against the amendment as presented? Oh, I think we can count it. I say that the amendment has been defeated. Anyone question the chair? Okay. So Article 12 will appear at your respective voting halls as I originally read it and not as amended. Am I clear? Anyone unclear on that?
The boys are winning 11-3.
I'm sorry.
The boys basketball team is winning 11-3.
Good? Who wants to speak? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Ullman first, and then we'll come to you. I'm sorry. Bear in mind that the amendment's been defeated.
Okay.
But we always want to hear from you.
Okay, I'm Steve Ullman from Antrim, and I have had the honor of being a library trustee in Antrim for 9 years. As we speak, a library trustees meeting is going on, and I am absent. Trustee Heck has already made the key point, which is under policy that the school board has adopted, parents, legal guardians have the right to access all of the instructional materials that students are consuming. While libraries very much appreciate town government financial contributions, legally speaking, libraries are independent entities. Libraries have a limited amount of space, physical space. Libraries determine independently what resources are going to be offered to our patrons. And what appears in your public library changes over time. For instance, during COVID, the Tuttle Library found that many, many patrons wanted audiobooks. So if this warrant article were to pass, and if somehow some authoritative figure were to ask the Tuttle Library to find room for all of the instructional materials that were prescribed, the library trustees might well say no, or you can have 10 books, or so this warrant article does not recognize that your library trustees are independent actors. The libraries do not have to do what, for instance, the school board tells them to do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll allow one more comment. Mr. Sanders had his hand up. I know who you are. That also counts towards your 3 minutes.
Richard Sanders, Peterborough, and people have spoken about this particular article, and I was sitting there thinking, if this were to become a reality, I thought, my goodness, what is the school board, the educators, what are they going to do if we have everybody nitpicking some little piece they happen to look at they didn't like about the curriculum, or how a teacher is going off for additional professional training? I think this goes much further than just purely, it says we want to know everything you're teaching and everybody should have access to it. I think that's already there. I would use myself as an example. In all my years that I worked in this school, I would have been printing and sending thousands of copies of music to all the libraries And then people could look and go, oh, I don't like that. He's doing the Overture to Figaro by Mozart. Let's make a complaint. And I can just see this kind of article, even though it doesn't say that, I can see where we might be headed on something like this, and I find it scary. End comment.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. I'm going to now close Article 12 to any further debate. And we're going to move to Article 13, which is the last article. Article 13 is school board members to choose Kentucky Valley School District officers as follows. 6 members of the school board, 1 from the town of Antrim for a term of 3 years, excuse me, 1 from the town of Dublin for a term of 3 years, 1 from the town of Hancock for a term of 3 years, 2 from the town of Peterborough for a term of 3 years, and 1 from the town of Peterborough for a term of 1 year. Article 13 is an article that's regulatorily governed, and so it's not subject to debate, but it has to be on here as a matter of compliance. So that completes the articles. I would now like to ask if anyone has special awards or declarations that should come before this meeting.
Mr. Edwards, I have such a resolution. Be it resolved that the Kentucky Valley School District recognize Richard Cahoon, school board member representative from Antrim, for his 9 years of dedicated service to the children and citizens of the Conval community. Be it
Thank you.
Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread upon the records of this meeting.
Thank you. We'll put that in the minutes. Is there any other business that may legally come before this meeting? I would like to just take a second to thank everyone for coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts and opinions with the school board and also others in the room. And I appreciate your compliance with our mask requirements too. Having said that, we thank you. We wish you safe travels, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. No? Ayes above the nose? We hereby close the deliberative session.
School board members, please remember we have a meeting.
So saith.